everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Alexa. I have a 9-month-old daughter named Gia. Basically on this channel I just like to share kind of our family and what we're up to, and a lot of things motherhood and lifestyle. So if you guys want to follow along with me and our family, make sure you like and subscribe. Today we are going to talk about Gia's birth story, and it was wild to say the least. I am like pretty passionate about all things pregnancy and birth. I find it so fascinating. I find it so fascinating. I did so much research. I was watching birth vlogs every day of my pregnancy. I was so excited to give birth. Literally wasn't scared whatsoever. I was just so excited. At about 34 weeks, this fear started creeping into my mind that Gia was breech. Looking back, it was intuition, but I just thought I was being, what's the word, dramatic. So at my 34-week appointment, I asked my doctor, hey, can you check her positioning to see if she's head down? And he was like, oh no, we don't do that until 37 weeks. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of lived in that fear for a few weeks until 36 weeks. I asked him again, can you please check this time? And he's like, sure. And so he put his hand on my stomach and just kind of felt around. And he's like, yeah, she's head down. And I was like, oh, okay, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure, I can feel. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm a first-time mom. I don't, I was just like, yeah, sure. The doctor says she's head down. She's head down. Again, I think at 39 weeks, I had them check me again because I was just like, can you make sure she's head down? And they're like, sure. So they did the same thing on the outside. The weird thing to me is I never had an ultrasound past 20 weeks. After our 20-week anatomy scan, I didn't have a ultrasound at all. Which I think is kind of weird. Most people are getting ultrasounds around 34, 36 weeks to make sure baby's growing correctly. Yeah, I never had that. So I thought it was kind of weird that no one's giving me ultrasound for any reason, especially not to check the baby's positioning. But I just, again, went with it. That's what my doctors do. And so at 39 weeks, he said again, she's head down. And I just kind of let go of the fear finally. It's like, okay, just head down. If they're telling me, just head down. So fast forward to, okay, my due date was February 7th. And I think around February 1st is when I started having some I guess labor signs. Mostly the sign I was having was I was leaking fluid. I had a really hard time telling if it was amniotic fluid or just super watery discharge. I had no idea. There's so much going on when you're pregnant. So I just ignored it because it was super sporadic. It was it was very minimal. It wasn't a lot or anything. So I was like, oh, it's probably discharge, whatever. So I ignored that for a few days until finally I was like, okay, I'm getting a little concerned. It's not it's a lot, but if I've been losing fluid for 3 days, is that okay for the baby? If it is amniotic fluid? I kind of got nervous. So I called the nurse and I let her know what was going on. And she was like, just put a pad on. If the pad fills up within an hour, your water come in. And I was like, okay, but I knew that wasn't gonna happen because I for sure wasn't leaking enough to fill up a pad, but I did anyway. Exactly what I thought happened. Didn't fill it up. So I called her back and said, well, it hasn't filled up. I don't know, it just seems a little weird. And she was like, oh, it's fine. I was like, okay, whatever. So a couple days later, on February 5th, it was 10 o'clock at night actually, and my mom had just gotten into town that day to stay with us and be ready for Gia to come, and she had literally been in town for 2 hours. We were playing Yahtzee and I got up during the game to go to the bathroom, and I sat down to go pee, and fluid was coming out of me, and I was not peeing yet. And I was like, okay, this has got to be my water. It wasn't it was a huge gush like the movies or anything, but it was definitely more than just the little bits I would have been having. So I went out there and I was like, guys, I don't know, I'm just this is like such a mind game. I don't know if that was my water, or my mom was like, you guys just need to go in, have them check you out. You'll feel better. Even if you get sent home, you'll feel better knowing like your fluids are fine and baby's fine. And I was like, okay, that's true, because at this point I'm just getting nervous about if it is meiomyc fluid, if it's like decreasing, and if the baby's okay. So I was like, okay, we'll go in. But I was like so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna send me home and then they're gonna be like, it's discharged, like, come on. But anyways, we went, and so I think we got there at 10:45 at night. I didn't have a hair tie. Like we had our bags in the car, but like I wasn't like fully prepared to stay. Well, we walk in and they check me in, they hook me up. I'm having some contractions, but like I couldn't even feel them. They weren't really anything. And the midwife comes in and she checks me, and she does like a little swab of like the fluid to send it to the lab to be tested to see if it really was my water. And while she was up there, she pulled her hand out and there was like a lot of water, and she was like, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I think it's your water, because, you know, lots of fluid. And I was like, okay. She's like, but let me send this, you know, to the lab to just make sure. So they send it to the lab. She comes back, she's like, yep, it's your water, like, we're admitting you. And I was like, oh my gosh, so excited. We were just like freaking out. We were like about to call our families and tell them like we're having our baby. And then this is when all hell breaks loose. So the midwife was like, okay, our hospital policy is that we have to do an ultrasound to make sure the baby's position before we can admit you. And I was like, okay, fine. I was not worried about it whatsoever, because like I said, my doctor's been telling me for months that baby's head down. So she puts the ultrasound on my stomach, and she puts it down low first, and she doesn't say anything, and she moves it up high, and I'm like, and she's like, oh my gosh, your baby's breech. And I was like, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. I had this fear this whole time that she was breech. I'm asking my doctors multiple times about it. They're telling me she's head down. And I know everyone tells me, oh, but she could have flipped. Okay, yeah, she didn't flip, and I can tell you that because, one, if your baby flips when you're 9 months pregnant, you will feel it. It's not comfortable. Two, I had been feeling all of her kicks and movements in the same exact places for months, since like 26 weeks. Like, she had been breech for a long time. So love that. So that news was absolutely shocking. I just started hysterically crying because, like I said, I had been so excited to like push a baby out. I know that's weird, but I was so excited. And when they told me that she was breech, it was just like I automatically knew, great, I'm having a C-section. Like, not even a chance to try, not even a chance to be like in active labor, like just like C-section. Like, oh, guys, I can't tell you how upset I was. Like, I was hysterical. Like, Braden starts crying a little bit for me because he just feels really bad for me, because he knows how like excited I was to do it a certain way. And of course a healthy baby is all that matters, but it's upsetting, okay? And so Braden has to call my mom, and I was like, Braden was a little upset, I was upset in the background. I'm like, Braden, you need to call our families and tell them we're having this baby, because the nurse just told us it's time for a C-section. Like, my doctor had just gotten done with C-section, so she's like, you're up next in about 15 minutes. Literal terror. First of all, I'm sad. Like, my birth is just like already over. And second of all, I am terrified of a C-section. Like, that is like major surgery, and I had not even really thought of that. Like, I'm terrified. This is terrifying. So Braden calls my mom, and I'm like, Braden, just make sure you tell her right off the bat that everything's fine, I'm fine, baby's fine, because it's just like we're all upset. And so he calls her, she's like, everything's fine, but the baby's breech, we're going in for a C-section. My mom's like, oh my gosh. He has to call his family, and everyone just like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just crazy. It was like 11:30 at this point at night. All I remember from this point like between like getting the news that she was breached to like my C-section was like, I was so freaking hot and sweaty. I was in shock. The people were coming in and were trying to get an IV in me. They like did like 10, they tried 10 different times to get this IV in me. It wasn't working. I was sweating. I didn't have a hair tie. I just wanted a hair tie so desperately to put my hair up because I was drenched in sweat. People were coming in signing papers, explaining the C-section, and I was just literally like in absolute shock. Like, I don't even know what was going on. It was just the most wild, and it felt so rushed, which was upsetting because I just felt like I didn't get to soak in anything, even the news that she's coming. Like I was so looking forward to the labor experience of just like me and Brayden like waiting around. How dilated am I? Have I progressed? It's time to push. Let's start pushing. Like, it was not like that whatsoever. And that's the part that was most disappointing, I think, is that it just felt so rushed and chaotic, and I still don't even know what happened during that time. So finally they got the freaking IV in me, and then 2 minutes later I was walking myself to the OR, and then they sit me down and they're like, okay, we're putting spinal tap in your back, and I'm like, can my husband be in here with me? Like, I'm literally getting a shot in my spine, like, and they're like, oh no, he can't come until you're all numb and laying down. And I was like, okay. So I desperately grabbed the nurse by me, like I'm terrified right now. I don't even know what's going on still. I'm in shock. And they did a spinal tap, wasn't bad at all. It kind of felt like a Charlie horse, like in your back, like a cramp, like a really intense cramp, and then it was done. And they're like, hey, lay down, you're gonna lose feeling. And I'm like just absolutely terrified. Like, I don't even know what's going on. And I lay down, they bring Brayden in, and thank the heavens, I had the best anesthesiologist ever. If you're gonna have a C-section, you just like pray you have a good anesthesiologist, because they are the ones talking you through everything. My guy was like, you just tell me when you're feeling nauseous, I will pump you with nausea medicine right away. And I did. I got really nauseous throughout the surgery. So I'd be like, ugh, I'm nauseous, and he would just pump me with medicine, feel better. He was explaining everything that was going on. He's like, okay, you're gonna feel some pressure right now. And ugh, the pressure was literally so gross. I did not like the surgery at all. Like, it was kind of scary. I didn't feel any pain, but the pressure was almost so much pressure that it almost felt like pain. So I'm like, am I feeling pain? Like, it was just like, I was a little panicky throughout the surgery, and also obviously I'm like still processing this news that I'm having my baby right now when I just walked through the hospital doors 30 minutes ago. Brayden was by me the whole time, and he was keeping me calm. He would like try to change the topic to something, and I'm like, no, I don't even want to talk about anything. I just want to get through this hell. But I will say, for the situation we were put in, it couldn't have gone better. Like, I had amazing nurses. My doctor did great. The anesthesiologist was awesome. I didn't feel any pain. It just was a lot of pressure, and I just was panicky. It was me. I was the problem. I was just panicking. And then the next thing I knew, we heard a little cry over the curtain, and I was like, oh, I just had a baby. Like, my baby's here. Like, it was just like so fast and wild. And then I didn't hear her for like another like minute, and so I was starting to like freak out. It's like, is she fine? Like, can I see her? And I don't know what they were doing, getting her cleaned up or cleared out or whatever. And then finally they lifted her over, and okay, talk about crazy experiences. Seeing your baby for the first time is like the weirdest, coolest thing ever. Like, I was just like, no way you just pulled that thing out of me. Like, that has been the thing growing inside me for 9 months. Like, it was so crazy to actually see her face. Me and Brayden were just like bawling, obviously. It was so cool. The first thing I noticed about her was her hair. She had so much hair. She had Brayden's nose, and she had my little dimple chin, and those were like the first 3 things I noticed about her. But quickly after we got a look at her, they took her away, cleaned her up, wrapped her up. Then they brought her back to me, and you know, me and Brayden and her got to just like be with each other for a little bit as they were sewing me up and stuff. And then after like a few minutes of that, I don't remember anything, and that is because I don't remember this, started panicking pretty bad about the surgery. And so the anesthesiologist just basically like put me out. Like, I was so drugged up, I don't remember anything. I was dead to the world. And during that time, it was probably like 45 minutes of, you know, me being out of it and them sewing me up. During that time, Brayden got to go back to the room with her and be with her while I was getting all, you know, fixed up. And then I remember being rolled back there, and that's when I started, you know, coming out of it a little bit. And I saw them two in the room, and I just wanted to hold her so bad. I hadn't gotten to hold her yet, but I was like freezing. Like, my lips were blue, my body temperature was super low, I was shaking, I could hardly open my eyes. I was having some weird like response to medication in my eyes, like the light was like, I don't know, blinding me. And so they had to put a bunch of blankets and like a heated, like insulated blanket thing over me for a while to like bring my body temperature back up before I could hold Gia, because I would have, you know, made her cold. So they did that for a while, and finally I was warm enough and, you know, there enough to hold her. So Brayden brought her to me, and I just, held her for the first time, and that was just magical. And honestly, in that moment, I like didn't even care what had happened, what I had been through, what was gonna happen. Like, I just was like, I have this perfect baby. Oh my gosh, I'm like gonna start crying. It was like such a special day. But okay, I just had this perfect baby, and she was here, and we're all safe and healthy, and I just couldn't ask for anything more than that. And although it didn't go like as, you know, we hoped it would go, or the easiest way, it was fine, like truly fine. And not only that, but my recovery was so easy. Like, I was so scared. I had heard so many horror stories of C-section recovery being so terrible, you can't move, like pain everywhere, and I truly didn't feel any pain. I did stay on like heavy pain meds for like 6 days, but even after those 6 days, I was on some Advil, and I just never really felt pain, honestly. I like walking was weird for the first time, but it wasn't pain. It was just like, you know, getting used to like using my muscles again since they were like severed. So recovery went great. My milk came in so fast. I think it was like 30 hours after my C-section, my milk came in. They were impressed with that because, one, I'm a first-time mom, so typically your milk comes in, you know, a little later, and two, C-section people, their milk always comes in later too, because it's a little bit more unnatural, I guess. But no, my milk came in fast, and she like was great at nursing. She nursed right away, and she was just an angel right off the bat, and she literally has been the best baby since then. But yeah, that was my birth story. Literally, I think back on it and I was like, that was straight chaos. And it does bum me out that my doctors didn't really check baby's positioning, because, you know, if I would have known at 36 weeks, oh, my baby's breech, I could have, you know, done some like yoga poses to help her flip. I could have, you know, done the whatever that thing is called where they turn the baby. I don't know if I would have, because I've just heard not good things about it. I honestly probably wouldn't have, but it just would have been nice to know what was going on with my baby and have options. So that was frustrating, but you know what, that's okay. Like I said, it doesn't matter. I have my baby here, and I will be trying for a VBAC next time. But honestly, if I have to have another C-section, I feel like I won't even be as upset, because I've already broken that ground. I hope I can have a VBAC, but if not, it won't be the end of the world. Like, I truly felt like this one was the end of the world. I still look back on that day and I just feel so much like happiness and love. Like, I don't feel like the chaotic trauma, fear, like I don't think of those things. I just think of like the excitement and love and gratitude I feel for having like a healthy baby, a healthy surgery, a great recovery. And I also wanted to add in for you moms, trust your instincts. I think I will do better at that my next pregnancy. Obviously, as a first-time mom, you don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's your instincts or if you're just being over dramatic, oversensitive. But that experience taught me a lesson to just trust your instincts and don't be afraid to ask, you know, doctors to do certain things. Like, it's your body, your baby, you can ask for things. So that will be a lesson I'm taking into my next pregnancy. I hope you guys enjoyed this birth story. Please subscribe and like this video. I'll definitely have some more similar content uploading, and I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks. Bye.